Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are discussing some of these fish, our top 10 favorite Lake Malawi predator haps and common haps. When you think of Lake Malawi, you think of haps, peacocks, and mbuna, and today we're going to specifically talk about haps.
I'm excited for this one, so let's dive right in.
Okay, before we get into this top 10 list, there's a couple things to keep in mind. First is that we are talking about Lake Malawi Haplochromis species, which is a couple different categories, we would say, predatory and common haps. A lot of these guys are predatory haps, which get bigger and are, like you would guess, much more predatory and aggressive. Some of the common haps get a little smaller, maybe 6 to 7 inches, still a good size, but might be a little less aggressive overall. There are a ton of variations and some really unique behaviors when you start looking at some of these different Haplochromis species. So we're really excited to talk about them today.
Yeah, Haplochromis is kind of a type of fish that you typically get into after you've had a lot of experience with keeping cichlids, and specifically African cichlids. They are not something you typically jump right into because they're so big. You don't usually start off with a 220-gallon tank right off the bat. So it's kind of a unique thing to eventually dive into, and that's kind of how I got there, and same with you as well.
Yeah, and even some of the common haps, the ones that stay a little smaller, the 7 inchers, even those probably require a 125-gallon tank minimum. And if you get into the predatory size, they probably need much more than that. And when you had the 125, you definitely had the feeling that they needed bigger space, and that's why we got the 220. So with all that being said, we have a top 10 list of haps that we're going to talk about, and then maybe a couple honorable mentions. It's going to be difficult to narrow this down because there are a lot in this tank that we love, and in my tank at home. So you ready to get into number 10?
Let's do it.
All right, so I think I actually have number 10 on this list. Let me check real quick.
Kick it off.
All right, so we had the placidochromis family. Did I say that right?
You did.
So Alec's really good about the African scientific names. I'm not. I'm better with the common names. But the Placidochromis family has the star sapphire, which was my all-time favorites. I love that cichlid. I have one in my 135 at home. I also really love the deep water hap, the Electra. And you have a big one in this tank here, which I cannot wait for my tiny little 2-inch fish to finally grow into your 7-inch, 8-inch fish that you have here.
Oh yeah.
Also the tangerine tiger, you have one in this tank. It's a beautiful fish, the Taiwan reef, and the red empress. So we obviously took a little liberty, cheated a little bit to group all these fish together into one because it's one family, but they have a lot of different species that are amazing to keep.
With a lot of similarities as well.
Yep, and your tangerine tiger, which is kind of interesting, it's been pretty aggressive, right?
He's by far the meanest guy in my tank, and it's kind of funny. He's a common hap with predator haps, and predator haps sound like the big, mean, scary ones, but as long as the other fish don't fit in its mouth, the predatory haps are actually relatively not that aggressive.
Unless you're probably keeping like small mbuna and they're like trying to pick them off.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
All right, so that leads us into number 9. Again, this is one that I want to talk about, and that is the blue dolphin. I absolutely love this fish. It is pretty much blue throughout its whole body, but has a very unique hump on its head with a little curve towards its mouth, and it really gets that name dolphin because it looks like a miniature dolphin, and I think that unique shape to its body just provides something that's very unique, very different in an African cichlid tank setup. And they are more of like a common hap. They're going to be more peaceful than some of the predatory fish, and they're not going to get huge and be tank busters at the end of the day.
Great color, great unique shape, and like you said, it feels like you have a legit dolphin in your tank.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the freshwater side when you have like a ball of shark and you want to say, oh, I got a shark. Hey. Well, you could say, I have a dolphin. I have a blue dolphin.
That's right.
So number 8 on the list is the fryer.
Ooh. My favorite common hap is the Tyronnochromis fire. He is the little engine that could. He is a small common hap, like the star sapphire and the blue dolphin. They're kind of big, but the Tyronnochromis fire, they only get about 7 inches max. Mine is pretty much full grown, and he's one of the smallest guys in here, but he's very feisty without being aggressive. He's not looking for trouble, but he's not someone to be messed with either. And also, I love them because they are quick to color up. as we've mentioned many times before, we got a lot of these guys when they were about 1 inch big, and I was just dying for some color. And so that was one big reason why I dove into the Cyanochromis fryeri, is that they get color quick and their color is stunning.
And that's a really good point when it comes to haps, especially the big guys. It takes some patience for them to really grow into their own and mature and show that pop of color. So fryeri definitely has that from the get-go, which is a huge plus.
Absolutely.
And I really like the white coloration that your guy has just down the top of their head and the fins.
And there's actually other variations, like mine actually has some yellowish orange in it too, which is actually kind of considered not as good of quality, but I like it.
And I actually have an OB fryeri in my tank, and I think it's probably my favorite in my tank right now. I don't know, I switch favorites all the time, but I'll show a quick clip of my guy on the camera right now, and he is beautiful. OBs are pretty cool as well.
Oh yeah, it's a very good looking fish.
So number 7 on the list is the Nemochromis species. Did I say that right?
Nemochromis, yep, you did good. So I love the Nemochromis family. The most famous fish of that family is the eyebiter, the Malawi eyebiter, which I've had before, and he was an absolute menace. Totally lived up to his name. He would just dive at fish, just wanting to pick fights all the time. He would own half the tank, and he was a lot of trouble, but he was awesome looking. They had that slender, long nose. He was really awesome to look at, but he caused a lot of stress with me and the other fish in the tank. And eventually, I think he fought one too many fights, and so he's no longer in my tank. But I do have a couple other of the Nemochromis family in here, starting with the Nemochromis kiwingi, which is just an awesome fish. It's shaped like a bullet, has really cool color patterns on it. And I also got the sunset hap, the Nemochromis strigatus, which really looks a lot like the eyebiter. So you get the cool look of the eyebiter with a much less aggression. They're both super chill, and it's just been so much more peaceful in my tank with those guys. But I love the whole family because the eyebiter looks so cool and he's so awesome, like tough and predatory, but they're all really unique, cool fish.
All right, then I think we're at number 6, and this is another one of your favorites.
Yeah.
I'll let you talk about it. This is the Malawi Trout.
Oh, the Malawi Trout. It was maybe the largest fish I've ever owned. It was such a cool fish. It had purples, greens, with a really unique body shape. You'll hear this a lot with haps. A lot of them, the best ones, have a unique shape to them. And the Malawi Trout was just really long and skinny body with really great long flowy fins. So it was a great fish to have.
And this is one of the haps that you identified way long ago as one you had to have in your tank, and you got that way early on, and it was just really cool to see a full-grown Malawi Trout. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, one of the OGs is what we call them, one of the ones we got really tiny. But yeah, I knew that it was going to get really long and have that unique shape. I knew I had to have it.
And that brings us to number 5 on the list, and even though it's Alec's fish, this is one I wanted to talk about because I love this fish. It is the Roth Stratus, the Bucachromis.
Yep.
Roth Stratus. Again, I think I got the African I got the scientific name down, but I love this fish. This is one that you had when it was really small, probably 2 inches at most. It was silver with just some black dots in the middle. Now it has some awesome greens, it has some flowing fins, it has some even metallic coloration just popping it all the time. Depending on the light you put on this tank, it always looks different. And it has some really unique behavior. This is something we haven't like totally talked about yet in this video, is some of these species having really unique behavior. And for this one, it's a sand diver, right?
Yes, the Malawi sand diver. And the unique behavior it has is a couple things. One, it will sometimes burrow itself under the sand if scared. Now, it's never been that scared in my tank, but another thing that it does is it will scoop up and sift through the sand, and it will literally swim back and forth, dropping little chunks of sand all over the tank, sifting through for little leftover pieces of food, and it's really funny to see.
Yeah, it's almost like a South American cichlid, the Geophagus, but in an African cichlid body. And I also think that yours is probably over a foot in length.
Definitely.
It is an impressive specimen, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, because it's amazing. And then coming in number 4 is one I can never say right. It has the Nemochromis.
You got it. First try.
So we cheated again on this one because we grouped a few of our favorites, but go ahead and talk about them.
Yeah, so again, we group them together because there's a lot of similarities, but there's also some differences. So there's the Nemochromis livingstoni, Nemochromis venustus, Nemochromis fuscotaneatus, and the Nemochromis linni. I believe I covered all of them there. But I have owned the livingstoni. I currently own the venustus and the fuscotaneatus. And the venustus is yellow with blue, and it just looks awesome. They call it the giraffe hap because it also has some black spots on the yellow parts of its body, and just it has awesome patterns. And the fusco is really cool because it's kind of purple, kind of blue, kind of red, and it is very feisty, but not too bad. It's nothing like the eyebiter, and it also has a really cool grid pattern along its body that is very unique.
I think that's something that's really cool about this species or group of cichlids is that they have that camo coloration along their body, really cool patterns. And many aquarists probably have seen the giraffe hap, the Nemochromis venustus, because they breed so readily, they're in many fish stores, and they sell so easily as small fish because they have yellow with that giraffe pattern already.
Yes.
I think like the common hobbyist will just pick them up and be like, oh, I can keep it, and not knowing that they can reach well over a foot in length and they can be very aggressive.
Yes. I looked at with mine. Mine's not very aggressive, but some venustuses are known to be tank wreckers.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind. They're an amazing cichlid, but you just need to have the right environment for them.
And that leads us into our number 3 favorite hap, the Tyronnochromis nigriventer. Very similar to the fusco, it has the grid patterns on its body. It has, I think, the coolest name of any fish I've ever heard. And it also might end up being the biggest fish I own. It could get up to 14, 15 inches, and it is just massive and very cool and aggressive if you like aggressive fish.
And yours here is wild caught, and we don't know exactly if it's a pure nigriventer or not. Maybe it will look more like that once it's fully mature and it's full size. But this guy's almost a foot in length, but it still has probably another 6 inches to go. So
it's got some growing to do for sure.
It will be interesting to see this guy when he's full grown.
Yeah, they all got kind of unique kind of colors. My nigriventer has more of an orange body, which I haven't really seen before, but it does have the cool grid patterns and long mouth with also kind of a black line around the eye, and it almost looks like a T-Rex. You hear Tyrannochromis and I think T-Rex, and that's kind of what it reminds me of.
And Jurassic Park's one of your favorite movies, so that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
All right, so that leads us to number 2, which is another group of a few different species, Bucachromis.
Yep. I could not leave any of my Bucachromis guys out. I just love them all, starting with the Bucachromis rhodesii yellow, also the Bucachromis nodotania, the heterotania, the lepturs green, the spectabilis, and
I think that's all of them.
That's all of them, yeah. I currently own 3 of them. I own the rhodesii yellow, lepturs green, and nodotania. The lepturs green and the rhodesii yellow are both very young and still growing, but I just love them. The rhodesii yellow might be, if I had to choose one overall, it would be in the running for my favorite. It is yellow with a sky blue color, and it's really huge. It's kind of a fat fish. It kind of is shaped like a big old great white.
Hello.
It's what it looks like swimming around in the tank. The Bucachromis nodotania is one of the coolest looking fish as far as colors. When it is fired up, it's got such a cool variety of colors with like a yellow, peach, orange, red, blue, green. I mean, it's just amazing to see. And the spectabilis and lepturs green are awesome as well. And the heterotania might be bigger than all of them. So it's just an awesome genus of fish.
And the head shape is just really unique.
Yeah, it's like a really big head, and it really tapers down as the body goes through. It just goes to show all the unique types of bodies in the hap family.
Definitely, and we just got some haps splashing behind us.
Very common around here.
So going into number 1 on the list, it's probably not that much of a surprise if you watch the channel or watch any of Alex's videos.
Oh, yeah.
That is
the Aristochromis christii. I've said that probably in 5 different videos before. And
what's the common name?
The Malawi Hawk.
There you go.
Which both of its names caught my eye because the Malawi Hawk, I'm like, why was it called the Malawi Hawk? and its behavior that gave it that nickname is really cool. It's its predatory behavior. They feed on mbuna in the wild, and what they would do is they would come from their open water swimming space where it's above the rocks, swimming above the mbuna who are dwelling in the rocks, and they will tilt over to its side so it gets a good view downward, and it will kind of start to shake before it dive bombs like a hawk to catch its prey. And it can open its mouth in a huge diamond shape to catch big mbuna, and then when it folds back in, it looks like it has a aristocratic mustache, which gave it its scientific name.
So you got two really unique characteristics there. It can dive bomb like a hawk. It has the mouth that looks like it has a mustache. I just think it has some really unique behaviors and features and body shapes to it. And the thing you didn't mention is how big they get. This is rivaling your Malawi Trout in size. These guys, you have two of them. Both of them are well over a foot.
It's so nice I had to buy it twice. They are huge. The biggest one's pushing 13 inches for sure.
So I think it's a perfect number one on the list. But that's not all for this video. We have a couple honorable mentions next. Couple honorable mentions, starting with the Malawi gar.
The Malawi gar, or the Nemochromis the cuticeps. My favorite part about the Malawi gar is its massive mouth. It has a very elongated snout with a massive mouth, and it's just eye catcher as soon as you look at any tank.
And along those lines, another fish similar to that is the Malawi thick lips. We got this one, the one in your tank, when it was about an inch, and this guy now is about 10 inches and has some awesome color and has those really cool thick lips. And its cousin,
Chalotapia rhodesii.
And this one has some really unique body shape. It's a little taller and just oval shape almost. So it really sticks out in your tank and has some really cool blue coloration. So that does it for our top 10 list and a few honorable mentions. Obviously we like all Haps, but these are just our favorites and we like to talk about them. If you have any favorites that we didn't mention today, leave them down in the comment section below. Or if you'd like to see our top 10 list we did on peacocks or mbuna, we'll leave both those videos right here. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.